I'd like to introduce you to our last lived experience guest speaker, last in the day. Her name is Esther Herbert, and I'm very pleased to introduce her. She's an energetic and passionate individual who's excited to be an instrument of change as far as mental health and combating the stigma in mental health. Esther's homegrown. She's from Stouffville, born and raised here until she was 18, and then she went to the U.S. And there she got a degree in psychology. She's had a diverse career that's included experience in the restaurant industry, with the Texas Rangers baseball team, and with the Dallas Stars hockey team. But Esther is a true proud Canadian. She's returned and been living back in Canada since 1996. This past year has been a really busy one for Esther. She was featured in an article in our Markham Stouffville Hospital Foundation magazine, which was distributed in the Toronto Star. She was a speaker at the Shoppers Drug Mart Mental Health Run for Women in April, and recently she spoke about mental health issues on Mike Richards' podcast. So please help me welcome the very energetic and dynamic Esther Herbert. Woo-hoo!
Wow, it's been an amazing day here. I'm not sure how this bends. It's like pulling it off here. Oh, I think I saw Dr. Herbert turn it. Oh, yeah. And then toward me. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Fine, yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, it's been a phenomenal day, and it's a hard time slot to follow. Our keynote speaker, Daryl, was phenomenal. Dr. Mark Berber, our two lived experiences. Dr. Reshna, I mean, really, it's very difficult, but I hope you're still with us, and I can, capture your attention for a little while. So good afternoon. Hi. Thank you, Donna, for those kind words. What a privilege it is to be here. I want to thank Markham Stouffville Hospital. I want to thank the organizing committee. You folks have made me feel so at home here, and this opportunity to speak with you is quite an honor. There is something very real and very true about mental illness and addiction. Whether that addiction is to opioids that we talked about today, alcohol, tobacco, stealing, or just one of many mental illnesses there are, such as anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, or bipolar disorder. These categories are interwoven, that's for sure. Today, I'm here to tell you about my personal experience with alcohol and tobacco abuse and my battle to manage bipolar disorder. Let me share a little bit about myself and what I've been through in my life. As I look back, I notice that there are many triggers that have formed who I am and my outlook today. I began drinking at an early age. Since I recently told my mom, who's 93, Ruth Herbert, right there in the front row there. Welcome, Mom. So glad to have you here. Thrilling. I told her recently that I started drinking at 8 years old. My brother was having a party. My parents were out of town, and that backyard became a hot spot, let me tell you. There was all kinds of alcohol there. Cigarettes were going on. And as an 8-year-old, I was just touring around looking at everybody having fun, and I wanted to be a part of that too. So that night I had my first beer, I had my first cigarette, and this became the first of many for me. This led me to heavy drinking in high school in the mornings before I went to class. I would go to a drawer underneath my bed and grab out a beer. I would head off to class. I would do that morning after morning after morning. I just thought it was just the way of life, and I needed it. And as we've heard today, once you have one, you want two, you want three, and away it goes. I would also drive very fast. Back when it was logged miles per hour, I would be going 100 miles an hour, late at night, country roads. I would shut off my car lights. I would go through the intersection, the stop signs, just at full tilt, because I wanted that adrenaline. I was a very reckless child. I was recalcitrant, and my behavior exhibited that everywhere I went. I had no regard for consequences. When I got older, I went off to school in the U.S. It was off to a Christian college, and they had very strict rules against drinking. In the second year there, I was caught drinking. I was quite drunk that night, and I was subsequently kicked out of university. It was very, very sad for me when I got back to Canada. All I could think about was I want to finish that degree. So, against all odds and all advice, I bundled up my car, drove back down to Oklahoma, and I graduated. See, the thing was, I wanted to do that so badly. I went back to a very conservative campus. There was a lot of talk on the campus. I was not well received, but I wanted that degree, and it became one of the most defining moments of my life. And I'm very proud to say that I finished that. As I moved on through my life, alcohol became very affected me at work so much. I waited tables during this big span of time. I would arrive at work, I was a trainer, so I'd go back behind the bar. I'd fill up a huge styrofoam glass of vodka. I would then label it with ester and put it in the back wait station. I would drink all day long on that and eating very little, just drinking. I would do that day after day. At this particular restaurant, they had contests, and I was very competitive. I wanted to win whatever I was involved in. So they had door hanging contests, door knockers that said "Two can dine for $8.99." So if you would put your name on the back of those, hang them on doors, and they'd come back and use the coupon, and then you could win money. So I'm out at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I have my headphones blaring. I had no regard for my safety. And that no regard for safety went into my 20s. Then something happened in our family that changed the course of our lives forever. My sister Rebecca was hit by a train. She was in the mountains of Colorado during a severe snowstorm. She was in that position, straddling a railroad track, because she had 3 times the legal limit of alcohol in her system. I have to tell you, that accident profoundly affected my life. It all came to a head for me in 1992. My brother and I flew up to Canada to visit my mom for Mother's Day. It was May, obviously, and to visit back. Upon seeing my sister in that hospital bed, she was broken, as you can imagine, in her body, and she was broken in spirit. Then we decided it was time to go, and I couldn't help think. Alcohol played such an amazing role in the circumstances of that accident. I couldn't get it out of my head. So the parents took us to the airport and circled us with arms of love and prayed over us for traveling mercies, as was our custom. It was a tearful goodbye. We're an emotional family and very tight-knit. But as soon as my brother and I said goodbye to my folks, we went inside the doors of the airport and found the nearest bar. Now, I sat at a bar stool and I looked beyond the bottles. There's always a mirror back there. And I looked at myself. We had just said goodbye to my sister, whose life is in shambles. We had just been prayed over by very kind and saintly, faithful parents. And here I was with a cigarette in one hand and a beer in the other. And you know, I didn't like what I saw. It was ugly. It disturbed me. I want to make it perfectly clear, it wasn't the alcohol that was ugly. It was my dependence on that alcohol, my abuse of that alcohol, the way that I would wear masks so that no one knew who I really was, and how deceptive I was when I drank. That is what was ugly to me. So on the plane ride home, I told myself, Esther, that was your last drink. That was your last cigarette. I'd never said that to myself before, ever. I didn't want to. But this time, there stirred in me a determination. So, I will fill you in on how I did with that goal in just a few moments. Now I want to take you down my bipolar journey and just fill you in with what happened there. So it was April 7, 2000. I had an experience that changed my life. I was at work and all was well, up until I was going into the bathrooms. And I would clean. I would clean the cubicles and the cupboards and the doors and the floors and toilets with toilet water, of all things. But I wasn't really cognizant of what I was doing. I just know every day that I went in there, I was doing it more and more. But if somebody came in, then I would stop. So there was some level that I thought, this is very strange behavior. So on the Friday of that week, I went up a short hall to my boss's office. She was not there. I walked in, I shut her door, I locked it. I sat behind her desk, I put my feet up, I answered her phone. I was boss for the day. It was just like, whoo, this is great. I was completely oblivious to people knocking, panicking on the outside, saying, what on earth is going on? So I sat there, and they continued to fret and worry about what to do. They finally called the authorities. They broke down the door. They handcuffed me. They led me to an ambulance that took me to Markham Stouffville Hospital. In that ambulance, I honestly thought I was in a Learjet, and I was about to meet the Queen. So that'll tell you. You know, a lot of people come home from work and say, "Hun, I've had a bad day." This was a bad day. Okay. It was right here at Markham Stouffville Hospital that I met a phenomenal doctor, Dr. Mark Berber. He gave me the greatest gift you can give someone. He gave me yes, clapping for him, yes, definitely. He gave me the greatest gift. He gave me proper diagnosis. I had gone since the age of about 15 to that day at 37, not knowing what I had. And so when he said, "You have bipolar disorder," I thought, wow, it is such a relief to know what I have, what I can do, how I can take care of myself. You know, I had this at 15, and I had the effects of mixing alcohol and tobacco with my symptoms. And when you have a mental illness, it's as though it lies underneath the surface. So when I drank, my behavior became more erratic, reckless, and manic. It was a very hard time for me, but it was a great time to get some help. I read a quote recently that said, "Impulsivity makes the risk of alcoholism and drug abuse all the more prevalent." I believe in that. I did a lot of self-medicating with alcohol, but it brought me no satisfaction at all. All I do know is that I am standing here today only by the grace of God. He has walked beside me every single day, and I am very grateful. Okay, now I want to take you back to the plane and my self-talk and my determination to quit a few things. I got off that plane in Texas. It was May 11, 92. It was a Monday, and I was determined to quit both drinking and smoking. And you know what? I did, and I quit both of them cold turkey. I went through withdrawals, and my body just ached. I had cravings, and at times it was all I could do to hang on. I was lonely since I had chosen to tell no one what I was doing. My behavior changed, and my outlook on life changed. I worked very hard to get to that 2-week mark. I'll never forget it. I made it to 14 days, and I threw myself a party. I was like, woo, I made it to 14. Yes. And I thought, wow, if I made it to 2 weeks, I can make it to a month. And I made it to a month. Then I made 2. Then the next thing you know, I'm at 6 months, and I thought, wow, this is surely, just as they say, one day at a time. It was hard. But when that year turned into 5, and then 14, and I can stand here today and tell you that I'm 26 years, 5 months, 15 days, alcohol and tobacco free. Woo-hoo! I did this cold turkey, but there are so many ways to get sober. There's AA we've seen on the chart today. There's community, church programs. There's your local hospital. It matters so much more that you just get there. And the other important thing is to maintain that sobriety. It's the journey that will change your life. You might not have the same friends. I did not. Or you won't get to visit your favorite haunts. You'll need to avoid the triggers that get your cravings going. But I can guarantee you, you will get so much more. You'll get your life back, and you'll never be the same. You'll get to know that life is good and it's yours to enjoy. Let me tell you why I'm here today, okay? My abuse of alcohol and tobacco and living with a mental illness was tough and extremely tough on those around me. So I'm standing here today telling you of my struggles, my hardships, my victories, and my triumphs in hopes of encouraging you. I believe we can make a difference in the lives of those around us. You might be addicted to a substance or have a mental illness, and you're here today. Or you might know and love someone struggling with those issues. I believe we're strategically placed exactly where we are for a reason. We are here to help each other, and you might need to reach out and be the one today to ask for help from a friend, from a loved one, a co-worker, or a professional. Just think, if you reached out today, this could be your day one. You might be the one to say to a friend, hey, I've noticed you're a little bit different. You're not yourself. Would you like to talk? Simple things. Heartfelt concern. It could change someone's life forever. I believe in you. I believe you can conquer an addiction. You can. And you can manage your mental health issue as well. I know it's possible. If I can do it, so can you. There is no better time than right now, and no better place than right here to get help. I did. I'm grateful. I'm forever grateful to this hospital for the help I got. I want you to know that being here, sharing my story, having you listen, it means so very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. God bless each of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Esther, for your words of encouragement and inspiration. Mary Troll.